Welcome into another video. The NFL draft is finally behind us, and today we are going to be talking about my 10 favorite draft classes. We're not going to do the whole spread. We're not going to do the whole draft grades. If you are interested in knowing where your team is and where I have them standing, please comment down below who your favorite team is, and I'll break it down for you there. But we're just going to go through my 10 favorite. We're going to keep it positive. We're going to keep it fun. We're going to keep it fresh. We're going to be using NFL.com's teams website to kind of break down. It's a little slow, unfortunately, for some reason. You think the NFL would put a little bit more money into their website, but we're going to break down my 10 favorite draft classes. And I want to throw a few honorable mentions out there. Detroit Lions. I thought they had a really good overall draft class. Blake Miller, a little higher than where I had him on my big board, but with the way the tackle run was going, great pick. He's going to be a plug and play right tackle for them. I love the Derek Moore selection. Jimmy Rolder, not a bad pick. I had a fourth or fifth round grade on him, and he's going to be a special teams player, I think, but a good linebacker for them. This is my favorite pick of theirs. Keith Abney II. I had a straight second round grade on this player. He's more of a nickel back, so I think that's probably a little bit why he fell, and he can be a little bit handsy at times, but I love that player, and I love that value for the Detroit Lions. Good draft for Detroit, I thought. Overall, nothing overly eye-popping or impressive, but just a good sound draft for a good football team. And then next one, we got the Buffalo Bills, just outside my top 10 as well. I loved the TJ Parker selection. I hated the Davison Igbinosun selection. I had a fourth round grade on him. After that, though, I loved what we saw. Jude Bowery, great pick for them. Skylar Bell, he was in my top 100. Jalen Kilgore was my favorite pick of theirs, though. This guy I had floating around the second or third round, and they got him at 167. I thought that was a phenomenal selection for them. Add some speed with Caleb Elarms or to their second unit as well overall. And then Armaj Reed Adams. I thought this guy was going to be going early day 3. Good pick. I think he offers some really strong depth to the Bills' offensive line. I thought that was a really good pick. Let's go ahead and get into my top 10, though. Kicking it off with my number 10. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. I know, like Jihad Campbell said, the richer get rich, but Mekhi Lemon was in my top 10, and I just love the selection, man. You get, in my opinion, the safest wide receiver in the draft class. You come away with that when you know A.J. Brown's gone. That was a great pick. I love the Eli Stowers pick. This is a team that's been consistently great at developing tight ends. He's a bit of a tweener between that and a wide receiver. But I love this pick. Markel Bell could not be going to a better landing spot with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata there. I mean, he's going to get to learn from them, and he's huge, like 6'9". The Cole Payton pick, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I know that some people think he's got like a Taysom Hill comp, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know. You selected a quarterback last year. I understand getting away with it every year, but we'll see how they use him. Michael Morris was one of those interesting players who didn't give up a sack or a pressure, I believe it was, but just looked like he didn't give a shit about football. I like the pick. Hey, turn him into that kind of player. It is the franchise you want to go to. And then you got Wisniewski, who ended up going. I like the pick there. Uar Bernard never played a snap of football in his life, so I just kind of gave that an even grade because he's maybe the greatest athlete to ever step foot in the NFL. Not actually, but holy shit, he's insane. And then I like the Keyshawn James Newby pick. I think he's going to make the roster. I like that pick. They needed an edge rusher. They didn't address it earlier, but I thought they came away with good value on Keyshawn James Newby in the second round, honestly. Let's talk about my number 9 draft class, though. It's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. I loved this draft class. Venga Yawane, plug and play, stud. Zion Young, stud. Jacoby Lane, a little high for my taste, but I like the fit. I love the fit of him in Baltimore. This is a playmaker, a guy that Lamar is going to be able to throw the ball up to. He's maybe got the best ball skills in the class, insane body control. I think he's going to be a good weapon for them. Elijah Surratt, also a very reliable player. The Hibner pick was okay with me. I would have probably gone a different direction at tight end there, but not the end of the world. But I loved some of the value they got. I love Chandler Rivers. That was a great pick. I think that this is a guy who has a chance to compete for a spot. It's a loaded room, but the depth in general is just amazing. Adam Randall, I love the pick. Shout out to Steve Bisciotti, the owner. What a fun selection. I think he's going to fit right in there. Eckley, you know, it's a punter, reach, but probably the best punter in the class. And then Rayshon Benny was arguably my favorite selection of theirs. I had a 4th round grade on Rayshon Benny, and they got him in the 7th. I was clamoring for my Bears to take him in the 5th, and they got him with one of the last picks of the draft. I love that pick. I don't know what caused him to fall so hard, but he's gonna ball so hard. That was corny. That was stupid. I'm not. I cannot believe I just said that. My number 8 draft, Carolina Panthers. This might be a little bit of a shock to some people, but I love their draft class. Ro Freeling is probably a year away, and the pressure is going to be maybe tuned up a little bit on him because it is kind of an open room. But I enjoyed the pick, and I enjoyed the Lee Hunter pick as well. I thought that was a position of need, and he's going to be a day one run stuffer, just a boulder on early downs. Love that pick. But it's what they did after those 2 picks that I enjoyed that really got me excited. Now, Chris Brazzell is going to be your Christian Watson type, field extending, large, big boy, wide receiver. He's going to open up things underneath, I think, for Jalen Coker and Tet McMillan. Willie was in my top 100 players. Sam Hecht was in my top 100 players. Zakee Wheatley in my top 100 players. Now, they were 86, 91, and 98, and Will Lee was my 98, but I love that. I've had clear third round grades on these players, and you go 4, 5, 5. Amazing. I love that. They're a day 3 I thought was my favorite day of theirs by far, and they had a good day 2 and a solid day 1. I loved the draft for the Carolina Panthers. Let's go ahead and get into my number 7. And I might get some hate for this one because I see this draft a lot higher than most, but I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, we can talk about them getting Caleb Downs at 11, which is insane. Caleb Downs was my number 2 player in the entire class. So for the Dolphins to pass up on that opportunity, for teams before that to pass up on that opportunity, stupid. Completely dumb. Cowboys got one of the best steals of the draft. After that process, though, I'm okay with it. I like Malachi Lawrence. I had a 2nd round grade on him, though, but it's a position of need. I like it. They addressed it. Jayshon Barham, position of need, good value. They like it. I addressed it. Caleb Downs is significantly carrying this class, but Drew Shelton, I enjoyed. That's a good pick. You can never have too much offensive line depth at all. I like the pick there for Drew Shelton. Devin Moore is where I was probably my most upset pick with them. I understood Malachi Lawrence at 23, even though I had a 2nd round grade on him, because the traits are there. The pass rush upside is there. Same with Jayshon Barham. I get it. He's also a little bit more freaky off the edge. They kind of like these smaller guys, these tweener guys. Malachi Lawrence isn't necessarily small, but Jayshon Barham is. Devin Moore, there was a few names, man, that you could have gone with in a different direction. I'm not saying it's a bad pick, but that was a clear position of need as well, cornerback. And you address it with Devin Moore in the 4th. I thought there was Keontae Scott being a clear one, Malik Muhammad being another one as well. That's a direction I would have gone over Devin Moore. Overall, though, you address the position of need. I can't complain. And you go edge again with LT Overton. Maybe kick him inside. I don't know. And then Anthony Smith in the 7th. I like the pick. They address positions of need. Rangy on the spots that I like them, but I can't complain. I think it's an overall really good draft for the Dallas Cowboys. They're in my top 10. Caleb Downs really significantly carrying that. He was my number 2 player, and you can't go wrong there. My number 6 draft, we got the New York Giants. 3 teams from the NFC East making it into my top 10. And number 1, obviously, Arvell Reese. How can you go wrong there? Is it a position of need? No. But I'm assuming they're going to be comfortable playing him more at off ball to start. That seems like what seems to be the path. Ease him into it. I like that. I trust Harbaugh. Maui Noah, solid pick. I really didn't want them to pass up on Caleb Downs. I think that if they took Caleb Downs and they follow the rest of their draft class, this could have been maybe the best draft class yet. But I understand. Trenches. Win in the trenches. It's a good thing. You know, you can't go wrong. He's going to be playing guard probably, which sucks. But the top 10 pick, I think he's going to be a stud at guard. I think his ceiling is there. You can't go wrong with it. Solid pick. Colton Hood, phenomenal value. I loved that pick for the New York Giants. Position of need. They got a good guy. I had a first/second round grade on him, but leaning heavily on the first round. They were able to get him in the second round. Love that pick. Malachi Fields, I had an even pick on. I'm not the biggest Malachi Fields fan, but I like the fit. I think he pairs well with Malik Neighbors. I think he has some real juice there now in this offense. And then Bobby Jamison Travis, I really like the pick. J.C. Davis and Jet Kelly, though. Love those selections as well in the 6th round. Start to finish, good, solid draft class, positions of need, good value as well. And you have Arvell Reese, who's kind of this tweener where I trust Harbaugh to get it done. He's easily one of the best players in this class, though. So when he fell into your lap there at 5, you got to take advantage of it. Let's get into my number 5 draft class, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. The rich really do get richer. They traded up for Mansour Delane, and I love the pick. He was my cornerback 1 of the class. You moved up to ensure that you got your guy. You jumped the Commanders, who are in need of a cornerback. Not to say that that's where they would have gone for sure if he went there at 7, but you solidified it. You go get the best cornerback in the class. That's your position of need. You seal the deal. Peter Woods, in my opinion, was a top 15 player in this class. He was my number 14 guy of the class. You get him at 29. The value is heavily, we're talking first round picks. When they slip 14 picks, it's a lot different than a third rounder slipping into the 5th round. That is insane value. He gets to learn next to Chris Jones, addressing a position of need. I think Peter Woods is going to come in and bring immediate impact. Same with R. Mason Thomas, more of a pass rush specialist, but they need some pressure. What he's going to be able to do on that defensive line is going to be fun. They address the trenches. They address with their first 4 picks, Jadon Kennedy. He's going to get in there and put some pressure in that nickelback spot. He has a chance to start on day 1. I fully believe that. Another good pick there. Emmett Johnson. I had a 3rd round grade on Emmett Johnson. Now, position-wise, not necessarily a position of need. You signed Ken Walker. But Emmett Johnson is a 3-down back. You have Brashard Smith there as well, who can kind of work in a multitude of ways. But if Ken Walker ever goes down, I have full faith that Emmett Johnson will step in and fill that role with ease. And then Cyrus Allen, I like the pick. Garrett Nussmeier, 3rd round grade on Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, something was up there, but in terms of value and what you can do with a player like that, if you can eventually develop him into something, you can turn around and flip a player like Garrett Nussmeier for a 3rd round pick in 2 years. You have Mahomes. Obviously, he's not going to take Mahomes' job, but love the selection for the Kansas City Chiefs. Love the draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. Here we go. Where are we at? Number 4. Number 4, a lot of AFC teams. A lot of AFC teams taking up the rest of my top 5 here. Tennessee Titans. I loved their draft, man. Now, Carnell Tate was my number 8 player, but that right there, to me, is so much better than selecting Jeremiah Love, who was my number 5 player. This is your guy right here, right now. Like, I'm so happy that they took Tate and Love went before that, because Love wouldn't have done enough for me. Dabo has been able to make Tyrone Tracy work. He can make Tajay Spears work and Tony Pollard work, or even Nico Singleton work, even though he lacks vision whatsoever. The traits are there to make him work as well. Carnell Tate is the guy. They needed a wide receiver, man, and they got one. They got their number 1 guy. Pairing him with Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Ayomanor and Shamir DK, now you're starting to see the makings of a wide receiver room for your former number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward, and you've got to be excited about that if you're a Tennessee Titans fan. Keldrick Falk, good value. He was my number 20 player. Getting him at 31 is good value in the 1st round. An amazing run defender, Robert Saleh, with his size and his power and his youth, he's going to be able to get the best out of him. I fully believe that. Anthony Hill Jr., was in my top 45 players. He was my linebacker too. The speed, the traits, everything that you want in your linebackers, Anthony Hill Jr. has them. Great value at pick number 60. And then after that, Carmona. I think that this is a guy who could eventually be starting on their offensive line. Nico Singleton, the traits are there. I would have preferred other running backs who were available over Singleton, but with the traits, you can't complain about it. I had around a fifth or sixth grade on him in general. Pat Coogan, Jaron Kanak, I like those picks. Jackie Marshall, solid pick, but Pat Coogan, another guy that I do think has starters upside in this league. You got to be excited. They came away with some trenches. They came away with an elite number one weapon in my eyes, and an edge rusher and a linebacker on the defensive side of the ball. A phenomenal draft for the Tennessee Titans. Let's go ahead and move into my number 3 draft. And the team who owned the number 1 overall pick, and that is the where the hell are they at? Las Vegas Raiders. The number 1 player on my big board was Fernando Mendoza. You're saying, well, what? I really believe in the guy. I think he's going to be that dude in this league. How can you have him at your number 1? Well, that's what I believed. It wasn't he's going number 1, so I'm going to put him number 1. No, I thought Fernando Mendoza was the best player in this draft. And they get him at number 1. Love the value there. Trade and Stukes. Love that. Position of need. Safety. They maybe took a little bit to address the offensive line like I wanted them to, but overall, they get the job done. Basantis was gone. Pregnon would have been a little there. They get Trade and Stukes. I like the value there. Great player, a little bit on the older side, but he's a plug-and-play guy. Kieron Crawford brings a lot of juice to the opposite side of Max Crosby. I like the pick. I think that this is a guy who's going to be getting his hands on the linebacker or on the quarterback in year 1. There you go, Trey Zune. You finally address the offensive line. You can kick him out to guard. You got Linderbaum there. Now you're starting to solidify your offensive line. Colton Miller still there. You're a year away from being fully protected for Fernando Mendoza and Ashton Jeanty. Now, like I said, I didn't expect them to maybe address wide receiver a little bit early. They didn't do that until Malik Benson, but I understand it. Jermod McCoy, man, he was the number 12 player on my big board. You get him at 101. There's obviously some glaring red flags with his knee. They say that he's probably going to need surgery again. It's going to put him out for some point in his career, put him out for a year. Who knows when that will be? Mike Washington. I understand that Kubiak runs a lot of 2 running back, and he wants to add some juice. I would have maybe gone a different direction at running back, but size, speed, combinations there. Don't hate the pick. Dalton Johnson was maybe my least favorite pick of theirs. I thought this guy was going to be an undrafted free agent. You get him at 150. It's not the end of the world, but they really did make up with it with Ezekiel Masses and Brandon Cleveland. I loved both those picks. I think Ezekiel Masses could be starting in that room. Genuinely. I love the pick. Overall, great draft class. You got your franchise quarterback. You got a really strong safety in Trade and Stukes. You got a guy who I think is going to be competing for the opposite job of Max Crosby. I think you got a plug-and-play guard potentially if they kick him out to guard. And then you get Jermod McCoy with the upside and a really good back end of playmakers like Ezekiel Masses. I think Brandon Cleveland's good value in the 7th. And the upside on Mike Washington is exciting, even though he's a little bit more raw. Here we go. Top 2 remaining draft classes of 2026. And we're going to kick it off with the Cleveland Browns at number 2. A lot of people have them at 1. I don't really hate it. I don't hate it if you have them at 1. I get it. I love what they were able to come away with. And obviously, in my opinion, their best pick was Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. He was the number 18 player on my big board. You got him 40 spots later. That is insane. Casey Concepcion, I love the pick. Spencer Fano, I get it. You need an offensive tackle. I like the pick. He was my number 1 offensive tackle in the class. Really good stuff. And then Denzel Boston, you're really starting to grow the room, and I get it. I maybe would have gone in a different direction. I'm not the hugest Boston fan. I had a firm 2nd-round grade on him. A lot of people much higher on him than I am, but not by much. I'm still a Denzel Boston fan, so I'm not going to bitch about the move. I just gave it a solid good grade. Like, I do think that you're locking in that wide receiver room for the future. Maybe could have addressed another area, but you're really going for it. solidifying that wide receiver room opposite of Casey Concepcion. And I love Concepcion. And then Emmanuel McNeil Warren already touched on. Austin Barber, good pick. I love these two picks right here. Address the trenches. Keep going after it. I like the traits on Barber as a tackle. Parker's Brailsford. People thought that this would be a guy who could maybe sneak into the third round. I like it. Justin Jefferson, okay pick. I would have gone with maybe his teammate Deontay Lawson instead, but whatever. And then Joe Royer, Taylon Green, and Carson Ryan. I have touched on Carson Ryan in our tight ends video. So did my boy Ryan. And then Joe Royer. Two guys. I think Joe Royer is going to make some noise. Opposite of Harold Fannin Jr. I like it. Taylon Green. This could be a guy who could be used in a multitude of packages with his massive build, size, and speed. This guy can do more than just play quarterback. And I do think that he deserves a right with his big arm to fight to play quarterback. But this guy could be used in a multitude of ways. Carson Ryan, this is a guy who you can line up in the backfield, play fullback a little bit, get creative with. I love the creativity. I love how well they address their offense, building the trenches, building the wide receiver room, and building the tight end room. Todd Monken is going to show that he has some playmakers on his side. All right, my favorite draft of the 2026 class is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, that might be a little high for you guys, but Ruben Bain was my most safe edge of the class. Wasn't my number one. I had Arval Reese ahead of him, but he was my most safe edge. They got him at 15, which is insane value. I love the pick. Josiah Trotter was a little high in my taste, but he's a violent football player. Keontae Scott, insanely good value, violent football player. DeMonte Capehart, in your guys' eyes, might have been good value. I had a third-round grade on DeMonte Capehart. He was in my top 100 players. What the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to do, which in my opinion separates them from the rest of the classes and makes them their number one. They might have had similar value as most of these other top picks, but man, they were able to establish an identity with it. Ruben Bain Jr., Josiah Trotter, even though it might have been a tick high, Keontae Scott, and DeMonte Capehart, powerful, vicious football players. That is how you establish an identity on defense. Keontae Scott, Josiah Trotter, and Ruben Bain especially. Capehart's game's more pure bull and power. Those three players are violent, vicious football players. Like the Ruben Bain value was nuts. That is how you establish an identity. That is how you turn over a new page on your defense, and you're setting the tone. They are the tone setters now on defense. Like, that is what I think. I think that Tampa Bay, especially in their division, they're going to have a tone-setting defense because they were able to establish an identity, a group of players who have similar mindsets in the way they play football. That's Ruben Bain, Josiah Trotter, and Keontae Scott, and DeMonte Capehart. Billy Schrauth, Bauer Sharp, Ted Hurst. I like it. Good picks at those value, but those four right there, those four picks, they stood out to me. That's how you would do it. That's how it's done. That's how you draft. I think Jason Light did a really good job. And those are my top 10 classes. Finishing off with number one, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, A+. I love it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another video. Plenty of content coming out this summer. Plenty of work to be done. I've appreciated the plethora of views, subscribers. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.